to the stand, Mr. Max Ikongbe. Mr. Max is the 2008 recipient of the Esquire Legal 40 Under 40 Awards for young lawyers shaping the legal profession. Mr. Max has been trained severally in different places. He has a fully fledged law firm operating in Abuja and other cities in Nigeria. Mr. Marks recently spoke as one of the facilitators at the Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies on the subject Information Technology and Law. Mr. Marks is happy to be here. Except you're not happy to be here. Okay. And I'll take it back. The next person I'd like to call is Mr. Israel Aye. Mr. Aye is a husband, a father of beautiful children, lawyer, a techpreneur, oil and gas expert, development enthusiast. He's the co-founder of mylaw.ng and a senior partner at Primera Africa Legal, managing partner at LegalX Partners, and co-director Aspen Legal. Money. All these things, money. Energy. Aspen Energy Limited, I'm sorry. All these things is money. So he has vast experience, and I should say at this point, not first. But when I was in law school, I saw Mr. Aye. The program I mentioned that Mr. Osaro, S.A.N. Ogubamian spoke at. The team, I think he was part of the team, and he was emceeing, as it were, that day. And I believe lawyer that young people need to listen to, any senior lawyer that young lawyers need to listen to is Mr. Aye, because he has done it, he's been there, done that, and he can tell you how to make money. By the way, I'm not sure if I ever thank you for the lunch at what's the name of that place now? I can't forget. Yes, he took me to lunch. So if you want to see him, we'll take you to lunch. That's it. A round of applause for Mr. Aye. And also on this session is Mrs. Okorocha, who is a partner at Jackson, Etsy, and Edu, a top law firm headquarters in Lagos. We all know that JEE specializes in intellectual property, and I believe that she is part of the engine room in JEE, ensuring that people have their intellectual rights protected. She's the patron, the Law Society, Faculty of Law, UNILAG, a member, Dispute Resolution Panel, Nigerian Copyright Commission, and was nominated as one of Nigeria's most 50 influential women in the... All the ladies should clap at this point. Madam, I had a discussion with someone today. The person said being married is not an achievement. Married is not an achievement. And I started thinking about it, and I said, all the successful women I know are married. And you're a successful woman, and you are married. Please, let's clap for her. So it's just me thinking out loud, because I just had a discussion this morning, and I'm here, and it is a Mrs., not a miss. Don't mind me. It's just my personal bias for marriage. And finally, Mrs. Fumi Roberts. She's moderating this session. She was called when we were not all born. 1982, my parents had not met. And then she started her practice, or rather, she was with the state, and thereafter, in 1989, she proceeded to establish her law firm. 1989, Chidera, you were not born. You were not. You know, she's a member of several professional organizations. She sits at the board as executive committee of several organizations, board or executive committee of several organizations, including Women in Management and Business, WIMBIS, as many corporate bodies, including the board of directors of the largest bank in Liberia, EcoBank Liberia, as well as several other corporate bodies. And of course, she's a recipient of several awards. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Fome Roberts.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's when I came into the room, I felt like a dinosaur when I realized that it's a room full of young people. But believe me, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else but in this room at this time. And I want to thank you for inviting me. I would also like to thank Busola for making this a gender-sensitive panel. 2 men, 2 women. I hardly find that nowadays. And the only thing that you didn't do is just to ask our ages. I'm so old amongst them, tech pool, IP people, and I'm wondering why me? But I hope that I'll go out of here, of this room, as blessed as you all will be from listening to the members of the panel. I think there's a disconnect somewhere. We were given 9 questions to deal with, and I protested that these are powerful questions, and I don't think 1 hour is enough to. But now the MC has said we have only 30 minutes to deal with those questions. And
I'm sorry, you actually have 45 minutes.
Well,
but
you're still taking 15 minutes away
then the
from
15
our
minutes
time.
for questions.
Okay.
But what we have observed is that if I had said 45 minutes, we'll be here for 1 hour, 45 minutes. So
Smart.
I said that one so that we will all, now that we know.
Yes.
We can.
Okay, we have 45 minutes to deal with 9 questions. We may not be able to deal with all of them, but we will try as much as possible to run through as many of them as we can. And I'm going to start with Max. Max, you know the legal practitioners' rules of professional conduct says that we shouldn't advertise. And yet, we want to be visible to our clients, get briefs without breaching those rules. So what's the trick? How do we do it?
Thank you very much, Ma, and good morning, everyone. It's indeed a great...
Can we avoid Ma?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, when I saw the program, I mean, I've known Ms. Fumi Roberts. When I saw the program and I saw she was called 1982, I almost fell off my seat. I mean, it's amazing, and it's a huge privilege to be on the same panel with her. Out of time, I'll quickly jump into the question. Yeah, so for me, first of all, the first thing I want to say is that, with due respect, I think there's a misconception of the rules on professional conduct. Rule 39 sub 1 of the rule says it expressly. I don't know how better I can be put. That subject to sub rules 1, 2, and 3, a lawyer can advertise or promote his practice in any way. Now, when you go to 2 now tells you that there are certain things you can't do, even if you can advertise and promote. It says you can't, make falsehoods. You can't make your advertisement so repetitive that it becomes annoying to the recipient. You can't also, I think the other qualification is that you also cannot talk about your success rate or talk about other lawyers or professionals and put them down through your advertising. Then sub-rule 3 now says something, which is where the trick is. It now says, however, without regard to sub 1 that already said you can advertise or promote in any way, you can, however, not solicit for professional employment through a listed number of ways, through circulars, handbills, and all of them listed there. So I think where we need to understand this clearly is that, to a large extent, I mean, the marketing professionals will tell us more, but I think there are 3 broad areas of marketing. There's advertising, there's promotion, and then there's solicitation. Advertising talks about making yourself known, and what you do, at that level. And then promotion talks about essentially building a brand, making yourself as a professional more authoritative in your field. But soliciting professional employment, now if you look at the word soliciting, it's like basically, look, you cannot beg for a brief. That's all it says in your advertising or your promotions. So I think but the problem is because of the, I think, 1980, 1982 rules of professional conduct, where indeed all forms of advertising was actually abolished. Somehow, people have not made that transition from that to the new place where you are allowed to advertise with exceptions. And then another important thing is this. Note that the new rules, the 2007 rules, that we use now, actually contains what I would call a positive stipulation. It means that you can advertise except you cannot do this, this, and this. It means that anything not listed in that 1, 2, 3, 4, you can do. Unlike the old rules where you could not advertise except for some of the limited things. So I think we have a much broader field. But I'll now look more closely at what we can do, how to get briefs. I mean, of course, we know a lot of the real easy ones. I mean, writing is one easy way to make yourself known and make yourself visible in the market. But the advice I give to people is this: when you write, please remember that you are not writing for your fellow lawyers. You are writing for the market. So write in simple English. Write in a way you can communicate. One of the experts said that you could be talking every day on social media, but you are not communicating. So you must know, just like the accountant said, you must know what the problem of your people are and speak to them in that language. So don't just write, but write in a way that is relevant. And of course, events also exposes you to new areas of law, and then generally it makes you kind of more of an authority. But you must select what you attend, so that it's tailored to the nature of your practice. So if you are not, for instance, a human rights lawyer, then maybe attending issues on prison congestion and all may not exactly be your thing. But select your area and then stay with it. Then of course, quality of, in fact, sorry, let me say this, I made a mistake. The first thing actually is quality of service. That's the first thing that actually sets you apart and makes it, that's actually the best advertisement. Once your quality of service is good, then there will be referrals, and then you definitely would be in business. So quality of service is very important. Then of course, another important thing people overlook, particularly young lawyers, is team building. If you don't build a team, you can't go far. That's the truth. To a large extent, I've built a team. That's why I can leave Abuja and come here. I left Abuja since yesterday, and I didn't even bother calling them this morning to know what is happening and what is not happening, because I've kind of built a team. So I have that leverage to move around a little bit more, gain more visibility, be in the market, be where the market people are, and sell myself the more. Then of course, the one we all know, social media, is about the easiest way to break into the market now, and the rules prohibit that. So I think these are some of the few things we can look at, that even though the rules have limitations, I won't call restrictions on advertising, these are some of the ways you can break into the market. Thank you.
Let me tell you why I subscribe to everything he has said. Quite a number of people ask me that your followers are all young people. And I tell them that they are the ones who teach me what I need to know to live in their world, because it is your world. And if I don't know how you think, if I can't relate to you on social media, there's absolutely no way
Excuse me, ma. I'm sorry to cut you. You're on Instagram, ma. You're on Instagram?
I am not on Instagram.
Okay, Facebook.
I'm not on Facebook.
I thought it said social media.
I am on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I refuse to let social media determine who I am and what I can do with my time.
Okay.
So I am on LinkedIn, and I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Okay. All right, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask Mr. Aye. You have a legal tech solution for both lawyers and clients. And when your number was given to me, I put it on my phone, and your name came up. And I said to myself that at some point in my life, I must have tried to get into the company you were working for. And you didn't give me any brief, but I kept your number. That's why I still have it on my phone. And then I couldn't relate Mr. Israel Aye. Legal, high tech. And that's that's the experience I want you to share with us now.
All right. Thank you very much. I'll see what I can do in a very few minutes, but again, just thanks a lot, and thanks to Busala and her team for this wonderful conference. So Ms. Robert is right. I'm a very young practitioner, certainly younger than she is. I've been in practice now for just a little over 25 years. So that's not very long. And I've spent about 20 of that time largely in the energy space. At some point in my life, I was in-house with a company known as Shell. And so I was there until about 9 years ago when I exited. So that's probably when we crossed paths, like she said. And so for those who know me, up till about a couple or so years ago, they probably would associate me more with my existence or practice in that space, in the energy space, where I would, every sense and responsibility, have a very good reputation in. I think I'm listed in all, maybe except one, all the major lists. Who is Who Legal, IFLR, Chambers, as a go-to lawyer in the energy space. So it's an area I understand very well, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been it. Around about the space about 4 years ago, like I said, I came into the private space about 9 years ago. And one thing that has always dogged my mind, my thinking is, you know, is this all there is to practice? Because the honest truth is that legal practice is tough. Don't mind the appearances. You know, we are expert fronting. But trust me, even the big names, some of the big names have businesses that is subsidizing the practice. But the practice per se is tough. It's bloody. And the sad part of it is that we may not have learned how to create value in it. And this is just off the cuff. I doubt that the legal industry is worth more, up to $1 billion. I don't know that the entertainment industry is over $1 billion. And so if those boys are coming in and buying houses in Lekki and driving G-Wagon, and we are still with a frown and all the English, still hopping bikes and whatever else, you know why? It is that they have just found a way to create value out of their space, and people are willing to pay more for it. So that's always worried me. I mean, in the UK, for example, I said last year alone, the legal services industry accounts for well over $250-something billion. In the US, that is well over $280-something billion that it generates, but we've not generated. So I always started to think about it. That was what led us to, and maybe if, at some point in this, before we leave, I might just show a slide, I may not, or people can talk to me. That was what eventually led us to create a digital platform to provide legal services. But if you think too much, if you overthink the digital platform, then you may have missed the message. What we set out to do was to open access and to create affordable access to legal services. Open access by offering it on a digital platform, and to rethink the way you buy and sell legal services. So we began to think commoditization. We began to think, what's it called now? There's commoditization. Yeah, that's what I was looking at, and I probably can talk to that in a moment. Modularization. And not entirely new things in the legal profession. You find them in the provinces. It's unlikely that if you go to Owerri or some of the more rural areas that anybody is willing to pay you ₦1 million for any brief. Okay? I mean, they probably will pay you just to file, and then they'll pay you each time you go to court and all of that. So we looked into some of or even the so-called charge and bail practice. So we looked at some of these things that already is beginning to commoditize legal services or modularize it, and on, and we decided to bring all of that onto a digital form. And so that's what we're pushing right now. And I can tell you to gain a lot of traction and the potential. And if you sit down with me and you do the numbers alone, and you see what potential exists in that space, it's absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, suddenly, from our mind's eyes, you know, we came from the place where we thought there were very few lawyers, and by the time that sort of initiative goes full flight, we probably wouldn't have enough lawyers in the country. You know, but again, if it's not because it's Busola, I wouldn't have come, because I prefer to just stay with it, work it, and let the results speak for themselves. But that's where we are at the moment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aye. I just want to share a piece of information with you. There was a study conducted about 2 years ago. I came across that study when last year I was asked to deliver the 8th George Ajibola lecture in Obafemi Awolowo University. Can anyone guess what the greatest threat is to our legal profession? Can anybody hazard a guess as to what that threat is? Yes, sir. Everybody thought it was technology until the results came out. Our clients are our biggest threat. And the reason why is because they have all the access we have to information on these tablets that they carry with them. So our clients can draft their agreements without us. Our clients can do most of the research and all the legal opinion we want by just going online, put in 1 or 2 words, and it gives them all the information and material they have. And what I think Mr. Aye is trying to tell us is that we have to think beyond what our clients have access to. That study showed that 92% of the people who took part in that survey believe that they know what lawyers know because they can access it. So our clients can know as much as we do. So don't let us fall into the trap that it is all about IT. No, we have to outsmart our clients. That's what that study is telling us.
Yes, morning everybody. I'm delighted to be here. And Busola, kudos to you and your team for putting together this fantastic conference and discuss. Oh, really and truly, the legal space is evolving. Let me not even say has evolved. It's evolving. Just as Mrs. R has said, there are threats to the traditional law firms as we used to know it. And the truth is, do we want to become dinosaurs? Do we want to live in a world where it's just about the law and nothing else? Are we oblivious to the changing world around us, the use of technology in the provision of services? Is the law not a business like any other business? Those are the questions that I think we have come here to answer. And to my mind, the law has evolved into becoming a business, just like a corporate organization. When you trace the history of law firms back, you realize that most law firms then were one-man practices, basically litigation-based, and there was a guru who, did everything in the courtroom on behalf of his clients. But the law has evolved. The clients are more demanding. The areas of law have diversified. You're talking energy, you're talking mergers and acquisitions, big transactions, intellectual property. So how do we keep the question today without offending or contravening our... Just as Mark has said, we can actually advertise, but the question is, what are the restrictions? That's what we need to focus on. He mentioned quite a few things that a lawyer could do. But the first thing I would say you need to do, in addition to everything he said, is that you have to have a website. You can go to town on your website. It is some form of advertisement of who you are, what you do, your size, your clients. And that's an avenue that a lot of lawyers have used in order not to contravene the RPC. One thing I know for sure is that the law hasn't even finished evolving. Mrs. R talked about clients being the biggest threat, and it's true. But we see most times now consultants are doing what lawyers are doing. And I don't know if there's any in-house counsel here. The PwCs and the Andersons are offering legal services. In IP space, you have people who go around pushing you down on your price, giving the clients ridiculous fees and saying they can do it cheaper. They do an assessment or carry out audits of different prices from different law firms, and they come back to the client and say, your lawyers are charging you too much money. We can get it cheaper for you. So the key is, how do we stay relevant? Competition is fierce. We're all in the same market looking for the same clients. How do you distinguish yourself? We have to think beyond what happened in the past, whilst being conscious of the fact that lawyers and rules of professional ethics must apply. We must keep the principles of integrity, keep our hands clean, and all whatnot. Having said that, I would like to pose a question at Mrs. Roberts. And I'm delighted and privileged to be on the same panel with you, Ma. You're an inspiration. Like we heard today, you were called in 1980-something. I was still in school at that time. But how have you remained so relevant? We want the key. Remained relevant. We're talking of almost, 40 years? Or there? Yeah? Exactly. So please share with us.
Thank you very much. It's a question I get asked all the time. Yesterday I went to make my nails, and the lady making my nails has a set of twins, a boy and a girl. I said, my first set of grandchildren are twins, 2 girls. And as I was going, she said, Ma'am, did you say your grandchildren or your children? I said, no, my grandchildren. She said, no. She called everybody. This woman is a grandmother. And I said, I'm a grandmother. I'm loving it. And just 4 and more to come by the grace of God. But let me say this. What did I do? I didn't do anything out of the ordinary. What I did was write my story. I didn't write Chinwe's story. I didn't write my friend's stories. I wrote my story for myself. And I did that after a lot of introspection. I wanted to do so many things. There was a time I wanted to be a nurse. And then I said I wanted to be a doctor. The next thing I wanted to do was read law. I got into the law school. I wanted to be a judge. I was in legal practice. Then I said to myself, no, I don't want to be a judge. I was offered a seat. In those days, you don't take exams. They will offer you a seat on the bench. But I looked at myself and I said, the bench is not for me. I'm a people's person. If you love people, you can't go on the bench. I then sat down that, what is it you want to do? The first question I asked myself is, what does success mean to me? And it is a question that I ask so many young people, and they have no clue because they've not sat down to think about it. Because what success means to me is different from what it means to the next person. And at that time, I had 4 sons I had to take care of. And I said to myself that success, what meant to me after I sat down, was raising 4 sons. And people didn't believe me whenever I said that. Success to me wasn't about my legal practice. And today, if you ask me, what is my greatest achievement? And I will tell you that it is raising my 4 sons successfully. As I sit here, thank you very much. My number 1, Red Chemistry, is in oil and gas company seconded to Texas. My number 2 son is an architect. Number 3 is an engineer, worked with Shell, was on the rig for 3 months, pulled out, is now a serial entrepreneur. My number 4 is a financial consultant with FBN Quest. And that is why I can sit here today in peace, knowing that I have achieved the success of raising 4 sons. But then, at the time of that decision, I also took the decision that the next level of success for me is about building my career. And so I went into legal practice, active legal practice. I was a lecturer because I wanted to be a professor of law. And then I said no. Because I was brilliant in school, I was top of my class, didn't mean that I must be a professor. So I resigned. And everybody told me that life out there was tough. I said, it is tough, but it's not for the faint-hearted. And then, what did I do? Because for me, legal practice is entirely different from being in academics. I went to several law firms. They were not ready to pay me money because I didn't have the experience. So what did I do? I worked for a law firm for 3 years, free of charge, without being paid. And it took people a long time to realize that I wasn't being paid whilst I was with that law firm. And it was a pact I had with them. I just need the experience. We are not taking in young wigs. Just employ me. Because I was doing the work as if I owned the law firm. I knew how we were buying diesel in that law firm. I would go to Abeokuta on my own money because I knew what I wanted. But then the third thing I did was to remember what I was told, and that is what I'm going to tell you all today. Don't let today define what you're going to do alone. Think about what would you be doing when you are in your 60s? What will you be doing when you are in your 70s? The Yorubas have an adage that says that, "Kale sonwaju owurolo." What does it mean? May our old age be better than our youth. So when I'm planning, and I'm a planner, I can show you in my book what I will be doing when I'm 80 years old. I plan every 10 years. It helps me to stay focused. And my plan was that when I'm 60, I'm going to be busier than when I was 40 and raising my children. And that was what drove me. The auditor, the lady from PwC came here and told us that you have to be passionate. Well, it's good to be passionate, but you have to plan. And for me, what I was going to do when I'm 60 was more important than what I was doing when I was 40. And I'll explain why. I had friends who were company secretaries, legal advisor. When I started my law practice, I started from one room, divided into two. I was secretary. That was when I was running after Mr. Israel. I had to give me briefs, and he didn't give me. That was when I was running after the company secretary of one bank or the other, but he didn't give me. And then I moved from one room to two rooms. But I kept my practice small because what defined success for me was raising my 4 sons. And I knew that I couldn't compete. I couldn't detract from that. So I kept my practice small, but I stayed within the loop of my profession. That was when I was active in FIDA. That was when I was active in NBA. But I let everybody know that I'm a lawyer, but then I'm a mother first. But I never left my profession. I've never done anything in my life except law. And that is what I tell people. Law is a very difficult taskmaster. I know about side hustle, but believe me, if you want to succeed in this profession, you have to make up your mind what you want to do. For me, it was about law and law and law. I'm not against side hustle, but I'm sharing my story with you. And my story was to remain in that profession. And from the two rooms, I built a 4-story building where Fumi Roberts and Co. is housed today, with a Lagos office in Ikoyi and a focal point in Abuja. Whilst my kids were growing up, everybody around me knew that I was going to grow her practice when Adeyemi got to SS3. So when Adeyemi got to SS, my comfort zone, I shouldn't let geography define me. And I began to grow my legal practice. It was tough. But I just kept telling myself that when you are 60, you must be as relevant as you are now, even more relevant at that time. That was when I began to build that network that I tap into today. And what am I saying to you? That you can, look, you can have a marriage, you can have children, bring them up. It's just about prioritizing. You cannot do it all at the same time. And let me say this. If you are focused, friends, don't let your colleagues, don't look at what they are doing. Don't look at story. Don't share their story. My friends who are company secretaries at that time, one of them had to resign from her bank 2 years ago. And she said, Fumi, you know what? I must make a confession to you. When I came to your office, she came only once. I swore that I would never come again because I looked down on you. And I said to myself, Fumi came, she was one of the 2-1 Ife, 2-1 law school. And I told everybody at Fumi's office, you'll be ashamed. She didn't even have a car. First 12 years of my married life, I did not own a car. And I had 2 children. That is my story. But I wasn't bothered because I knew where I was going once those children are grown up. I was certain. She said, she's my very close friend. She confessed to me and said, Fumi, I looked down on you because I had a car. The bank gave me a flat. And I looked at your office, but I didn't know that you knew what you were doing. That I'm leaving the bank, I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Don't write that story for yourself. Don't plan for today alone. Plan for when you're 60. Believe me, my son called me yesterday, Mom, where are you? I heard you are coming to Lagos. Can you come and help us to stay with Tade? I said, no, I can't come. That's my grandson. I can't come and stay with Tade because I'm taking some clients out to dinner. Mommy, you are too busy. I said, that's the story of my life. When I have time, I will take care of my grandchildren. I will spoil them and return them to the parents to repair the damage that I have done. But that is the story I have written for myself. Write your own story. But you have to start planning that story now. And that story should talk about what you'll be doing in your 80s. I can show you my story when I'll be 80, when I'll be 90 on my laptop. Thank you very much.
That's an awesome story.
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Max. You won the 40 under 40 award. What did you do? How did you win that award? Because I want to win the under 70. Tell them to do a program for award 70 under 70. I'll be the winner. So share that story with us.
Excellent. Thank you very much, ma'am. Wow, very inspiring story you shared with us. Okay, well, for me, 40 under 40, it's I think it's really about visibility in the profession. I think that's what awards like that want to celebrate people who they see, because if you are really good and you are not seen, then you may not be, in consideration for such awards. So I think one of the lessons to learn, maybe from our own experience in 40 under 40, essentially just a story of visibility. And when I say visibility, I can't say it enough what one of the experts on the first panel said, that when you use social media, you have to be careful. You have to communicate on social media. So I tell people that I may on closed platforms talk a lot about some of my personal views, maybe religion, politics, and all of that. Social media, I understand that there's a purpose why I go on social media and I stick to it. I don't abuse social media because, with respect to a lot of us of this generation, we abuse social media a lot. Because Facebook says what is on your mind, and you always want to put a piece of your mind on Facebook, and then you end up in life with a broken heart because your mind has been scattered everywhere. So sometimes, you need to understand why exactly you are going on social media. If it's for visibility for your legal practice, then be targeted. And then again, like I said also, one of the things that has also helped me in life, say for instance, getting to the 40 under 40 was that when I started law practice, I didn't have a focus. I just thought, there was money to be made, and I didn't know exactly how that money was to be made or where that money was. But one of the things I learned early was that, look, you have to engage experts and you have to pay them their due. So I have a management consultant, for instance, who advises me on strategy, business strategy. So he has taught me how to analyze markets and calculate their size. And from doing that, I now know what markets I want to be known for. I want to understand branding and all of that, and I'll give you a practical story now of branding, for instance, that turned my practice around. When I started practice, first of all, it was a partnership. It was myself and my partner. My surname is kind of difficult. It's not exactly the easiest surname in the world. And, whether I like it or not, we all do these things. When you see somebody you can't remember their name, you feel a little bad. So because of that, you may almost avoid the person. But when you see somebody whose name you can always remember, it's easier to connect with the person. That's exactly how a brand works. So at a point, I named my law firm Ad Infinitum Legal. It sounded good to lawyers. I noticed something. After 2 years using that name, there was never a response that came back to the office that anybody spelled that name correctly. Both lawyers, even fellow lawyers who wrote my name on processes, clients particularly. So I said, look, it means I'm not communicating. But we changed that name to a simple name, Ever Law Associates. And that alone has turned things around. I mean, I walk everywhere, people just say, oh, you are that Ever Law guy. And that creates a connection. So I think that was how visibility came. And then with visibility, it was easy. I mean, of course, the award criteria, a lot of factors were considered. What kind of work have you done? You had to write like a proposal, I call it proposal now, but a little brief on what you have done and all. Then they consider that and see if you are fit for the award. So sometimes it's just about how you can talk yourself up. That's really how it happens with these things. So say, look, write a brief on what kind of work you have done, what was innovative about the work, and how did it meet the client or exceed the client's expectation. And then, of course, you had references as well, other people to also check out what you are saying. So, of course, it comes some of the basic things you have said. You must, of course, offer good services, because if you don't, somehow at the end of the day, these things, it will always find you out. So you shouldn't. I see a lot of people who are really heavy on advertising, and forgetting that the first thing you have to do if you want to advertise is the quality of your work, so that it speaks for you. So I think for me, 40 under 40 was all of that, just visibility essentially, proper use of social media, good quality services, then a lot of relationship as well. Build relations, build networks, meet people, conferences like this. Don't run away immediately after the conference. Meet people, shake them, talk to them, know what people do. Read up, for instance, one of the easy things you can always do is, I'm coming for a conference now to speak with Mrs. Fumi Roberts now. I'll go to our website a day or two before and learn a few things about her. So when I see her, it's easy to engage with her. I can ask her, oh, I heard you did this arbitration or this and that. Oh, how was it? And all that. Then she finds it easy to talk with me. So these are some of the easy tools you can use just to connect with people. And then all of that is what gives you the visibility and ultimately can bring you to the point where you get awards. Thank you.
All right. I'll ask a question. Before then, I just want to pick up on a couple of things. Firstly, it was really a delight listening to Ms. Roberts, nuggets of wisdom, a lot to learn from. It's hard these days to talk to the younger generation about time. But like somebody said, it takes approximately 20 years to become an overnight success. So it takes the time it takes for things to evolve and to mature. Maybe we have found ways to accelerate them, but we must understand them. And like I said, I used to be in-house. I left about 9 years ago. Just about then when I was planning to leave, I was thinking about leaving. By the way, I resigned. I resigned from where I used to work. So I wasn't asked to go. In fact, I wasn't even paid a severance benefit, because the company said I was one of their valuable staff. They didn't want me to go. And so, but they couldn't stop me. If I wanted to go, I should leave. But the thought that occurred to me at that time it was just a very frightening thought. It said, look, 20 years from now, you'll see an institution. And you realize that if you had the courage to leave now, that would have been you building it. So when I left, mentally, I was prepared to rough it for 20 years. And like you say, and we make light of it, but it is what it is, that every career has two phases. There's the learning phase, and then there's the earning phase. Don't make decisions about earning during the learning phase, because you might then miscarry your entire career. It's on that note I want to pose this question to Chinyere and Ms. Robert, whom I otherwise would have referred to as Fumi, but it would be very disrespectful of me. Both active, and by the way, don't be deceived also by Chinyere's. She's quite, she looks significantly younger than she is. She's a very experienced practitioner. So there's a lot to learn from both powerful women. And you're both powerful women. And so my question to both of you is, and I'd like Chinyere to go first. How were you able to get into the kinds of networks that you have gotten into? Particularly if I consider the fact that at the time you started, it was a very male-dominated space. And how were you able to create those room and niches for yourself, both in the professional and even women network? I mean, those ones you started on. And so what benefits has been added to your legal practice by being in such networks? And how have you been able to easily network without debasing the nobility of the profession at all? Rather, you have brought more repute and respect to the profession. That's a multi-dimensioned. Yes, and I hope you remember all of them.
I hope I don't forget any of the questions along the way, but I will speak from my heart. I think I'm 28 years at the bar this year, so, I always loved the law, for some reason. As a lawyer, so I had a good reference point, but over and above that, I think that at an early stage in your life, you have to determine what you want to do with it. You have to recognize value in yourself. I tell those that work with me, sometimes when they get the answers wrong and, you're unsure of what you want to say, you have to believe in yourself first before you think or even imagine that anybody will believe in you. So at a very early stage, I always believed in myself and my ability to succeed. So I knew my value, and then I was able to determine very earlier on that I wanted to succeed in life. So just as Mrs. R said, define success for yourself. For me, success meant that I would be able to feed myself, have a roof over my head, drive a car, get married when I needed to get married, hopefully have children, and so on and so forth, have a good job. So that was always at the back of my mind, and that kind of drove me to be the best possible version of myself that I could be. I am on all the social media, Instagram. In fact, I even have a Snapchat account. And my children are telling me, Mommy, please get out, it's not for you. And why am I on all those platforms? I turned 50 2 years ago, and I kind of thought, when you're 50, you kind of are reflecting on things. And I'm like, what legacy do I want to leave behind? There's so much in me. And I'm successful. I'm a partner in one of the top law firms in Nigeria. I have children, 3 beautiful children, by God's grace, all doing well in school. I'm recognized, speaking here and there, awards, chambers, IFLR and all that, But there has to be more to life. That's the question I kept asking myself. And so I found the social media as a platform to share my voice. So on Instagram, those of you that follow me know that I'm very active. As I sat here, I told that young man, he said, yes, I know, I follow you on Instagram. I said, take really good pictures because I have to put up what is. So it's about living life fully. Live life to the fullest. You understand? Believe in yourself. That's really what it is. Because I'm a woman, I also tend to, veer towards women more. And that is what led me to the Women's Network in particular, where the space where I play. It's called the Inspired Women of Worth Network, IWOW. I'm a trustee there. And it's basically about self-belief. That's what it is, really. And if you believe in yourself, you will take steps to ensure that that belief in yourself is recognized, and it takes you places. In the legal space, I'm quite vocal. I'm of the SBL, the only women on the executive, or only woman on the executive. And I keep telling the chairman of SBL, that is SAN Sheni Adio, that we need more women. Out of a council of 20 council members, there are only 4 women. It's terrible. I mean, we commended Busola for having a gender-sensitive panel. So it's important that if I veer into networking, that at the point to grow your practice, I guess, at the point when we define networking, I define it as a give and take relationship. It's not really about what I can get from the next person. It's more about what I can give. And so, some people, networking comes naturally to them. Some people, it's more difficult. For me, I'm a people's person. I can speak with or talk with anybody. I can speak with someone that is 90. I can also relate to a 16-year-old, for example. But it's about what value do you bring to the table first and foremost. If you take your networking to, that's a potential client, what can I get from them? It kind of changes the conversation when you sit down to lunch with someone you've met at a conference. It has to be about what you bring first. And I'm telling you, the results will flow at some point in time. So for networking, belonging to an organization, we have our Nigerian Bar Association, you have the sections, SPIDL, SBL. Make yourself known there. Just as Marx has said in the 40 under 40, it was about being visible. He talked about visibility. So I will advise everybody, if you find a sphere where you can make a difference and be relevant, whether it's in the Nigerian Bar Association itself, if it's in a women's group if you want, or a men's group, it can be church. But make your mark. What do you want people to say about you when you leave this earth? What legacy do you want to leave behind? Even in the legal space, what is your because? I attended a conference recently where a very powerful lady spoke. And one of the things she said is that in defining success or looking for what area to go into, you have to have a because. I'm doing this because I found a space, a lacuna in the tech space that I decided to fill. Or I'm doing this because there are not enough comedians with legal background or experience, and I need to fill that space. Or I'm doing this because an MC who has a legal background will know how to relate to lawyers. Therefore, I'm filling that need. So whatever it is, like I said, the law is evolving at a very, very high pace. We have to look to the future. We have to think about where will we be in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time. And just like Mrs. R said, you have to plan your life. Don't be someone that the wind blows you, back and forth, any which way, anything that comes or goes. Have a plan for your life, and take steps to actively follow your plan. Thank you.
But for the young lady who said, do I want to coast? I don't coast. Everything about my life is deliberate. What do I want to be doing when I'm 80? I tell people, as I sit here, I'm looking for partners for Fumi Roberts & Co. Fumi Roberts & Co. is not a family business. I've not made it a family business. Anybody can aspire to be a partner. I want to live a life of significance. When I'm 80, I want to be anywhere in the world and the name resonates everywhere. Not mentioned by my family, but somebody like Daniel, who is seated here. So it depends on what you want. My mother is at home, she's 83. That's what she wants for herself. But at 83, I want to be like Chief Akintola Williams. What does he do? He goes to Akintola Williams and whatever the name is today, and he has tea and coffee with the partners. And they see him off to his car. That man is a significant human being. That is my role model. Thank you very much.
And on that note, please I ask that we clap for all of this beautiful and brilliant. We cannot thank you enough for this time. We will just take pictures.
Can I just
yes.
say something? And please, I won't talk again. You see, I always say that I want to die empty. I have so much in me. There's so much experience in me. There's so much about my life. I want to pour it out, and anybody can pick it up and run with it. Busola has come up with an initiative. I met her for the first time today. I have never met her before. And where did I meet her? On LinkedIn. And that's why I'm saying that make use. You have so much opportunity. You are not believe me, if I were starting in this age, oh my God, there's no stopping me. You have all the materials, all the resources, but you don't even know how to use them. Busola is starting an academy. Busola, have you started registering people? The first name on your list is Mrs. Fumi Roberts. Because I want to sit with you. I want to learn from you. I want to register in that academy. And believe me, I'm ready to give scholarship to at least 10 people in that
academy. Thank you so much. You actually answered a question, another question on mentorships. People want to know if you have a mentorship program, but as you have mentioned, they will meet you at Busola's academy. It's okay like that. They will meet you there. So please, can we stand for photos? I believe we have a present for everybody. This session is not over. We have another panel coming to tell us a lot about making impact with technology and social media in the legal practice.